Elon Musk, a man known for his bold ideas and visions, is facing one of the strangest projects of his life. This time, it's not a flight to Mars or a breakthrough technology, but a social lesson. In a large room at Tesla's headquarters, Elon sat pensively looking out the window. His eyes seemed to penetrate the skyscrapers of the city, listening to the deepest thoughts in his mind. He realized that no matter how far technology advances, people are still limited by social prejudices. He had heard many stories about how people who are considered inappropriate are treated in high-class service environments, and that inspired him to conduct a small experiment. He decided to disguise himself as a poor man and discover for himself how people judge others based on their appearance. This was not only a personal survey, but also a way for him to find weaknesses in his social behavior that needed to be improved. That morning, Elon left his luxurious villa with a completely different appearance. His old, slightly wrinkled clothes, worn-out shoes, and a torn baseball cap gave him the appearance of a poor working man. He even wore old sunglasses to cover his sharp eyes and familiar identification marks. He entered a luxury car showroom located in the city center. This place was famous for selling the most high-end cars, where wealthy customers often came to choose expensive models. When Elon walked through the shiny glass door of the showroom, the surrounding space suddenly stopped for a few seconds. Some employees standing nearby glanced at him, their eyes mixed with surprise and contempt. "What is someone like him doing here?" An employee whispered to his colleague next to him. "Must have gotten lost. To dress like that to buy a car." Another sneered, then turned back to his computer screen as if he were busy with work. Elon slowly walked to the main display area, where luxury cars were carefully placed under the shimmering LED lights. He calmly observed each car, not looking embarrassed or confused. But his composure only increased the discomfort of the showroom staff. A female employee, dressed in a neat business suit, was standing at the reception desk. Seeing Elon approaching, she immediately bent down to arrange the papers, avoiding his eyes. When Elon tried to ask a few questions, she quickly pretended to be on the phone, tapping the screen at a dizzying speed. In the distance, a group of sales staff were gathered, chatting quietly with each other. They deliberately stood behind the display columns to avoid contact with this strange customer. "Let's see how long he'll be here," one whispered. "I bet it wasn't more than 10 minutes. He probably just took a quick look and left. Who comes in here without money?" Alan, a young intern at the showroom, stood in the corner of the room, observing the whole thing. He couldn't help but notice how everyone treated this customer. Even though he was just an intern, Alan felt uncomfortable with the attitude of his colleagues. "Aren't we taught that the customer is king?" Alan wondered. He knew his place in the showroom, an inexperienced intern who was hardly involved in direct customer interactions. His job usually revolved around checking the technical information of the car and doing odd jobs. But today, seeing the customer being ignored by everyone, Alan felt he couldn't stand still. "This is my chance to try my hand at it anyway," Alan thought to himself. Taking a deep breath, Alan walked up to the man in ragged clothes. Contrary to the disdain of the other employees, Alan smiled warmly. "Hello, uncle. How can I help you?" Alan said, his voice trembling but full of enthusiasm. Elon turned to look at Alan, a smile flickering across his face. "Thank you. I'd like to learn more about the models here," he said, his voice calm. Alan led Elon around the showroom. Knowing that the customer might not buy a car, Alan still tried his best to introduce each model in detail. "This is our latest electric car. It can accelerate from 0 to 100 km in 5 seconds, Alan said, his eyes sparkling as he explained the advanced lithium-ion battery technology. Elon nodded, asking a series of questions related to performance, safety features, and other technical details. Alan was initially embarrassed because these questions were far beyond his internship knowledge, but he quickly regained his confidence. "That's interesting. You know a lot about electric car technology," Elon commented, making Alan blush with embarrassment. It didn't take long for Alan to realize that this man was no ordinary customer. The way he asked questions, his deep knowledge of car-related topics, all exuded intelligence and experience. Meanwhile, the other employees began to pay more attention to Alan and the strange customer. They whispered to each other, their eyes both curious and slightly sarcastic. "Who does that intern think he is? No one buys a car with someone who has no experience," said one employee. "Let's see what he does," replied another, holding a cup of coffee, leaning against the wall as if watching a play. The afternoon passed in the steady rhythm of the showroom. Alan still patiently led Elon Musk through each area, explaining the models in detail. Unlike the other employees, Alan did not appear superficial or impatient, although he sometimes felt he could not answer complex questions well enough. He still tried his best with all his enthusiasm. As the clock approached 5 p.m., Alan and Elon returned to the main showroom. At this time, the other employees began to clean up to prepare to end the working day. Many eyes were on them, but no one dared to say anything. Elon, with his ragged appearance but leisurely demeanor, clearly felt everyone's judging eyes, but he remained calm as usual. After Alan finished the final introduction of the car on display in the showroom, he turned to look at Elon Musk, still the man with a simple appearance but bright eyes. "Do you have any more questions?" Alan asked gently, his voice still respectful. Elon slowly nodded. "I have a few questions, but not about cars." Alan was surprised. "Not about cars? Then what do you want to ask?" Elon sat down on a nearby showroom chair, patting the chair next to him, as if to signal Alan to sit down too. Alan hesitated, but when he saw the man's sincere eyes, he decided to sit down. "You're an intern, right?" Elon began. "Yes, I'm a senior in automotive engineering. My internship here is part of my training," Alan replied, bowing his head slightly in humility. Elon nodded. "You work hard and are very dedicated. I'd like to know, what brought you to this industry?" Alan pondered for a moment before answering. "Actually, I've always loved learning about machines. When I was little, I used to take things apart around the house, sometimes things I shouldn't have. But instead of scolding me, my parents always encouraged me to learn from my mistakes." A smile appeared on Alan's face as he recalled his childhood memories. "Once I broke the only electric fan in the family. Instead of getting angry, my dad taught me how to fix it. At that moment, I felt like a real craftsman. That was the moment I realized that I wanted to do something related to engineering, to create things that could help people's lives." Elon listened attentively, his eyes filled with sympathy. "So you chose automotive engineering to pursue that goal?" "Yes," Alan replied. "I think cars are not just a means of transportation, but an important part of the future, especially as we move toward clean energy and autonomous technology. I want to be a part of that change, even if it's just a small part." Elon was silent for a few seconds, as if contemplating what Alan had just said. Then he asked, "Does anyone in your family work in engineering or have any major influence?" Alan took a deep breath before answering. "No, uncle. My family is not rich. My parents are farmers in a small countryside. They work hard all day to support the three of us. I'm the oldest son, so I always feel a responsibility to set an example and help my parents." He paused, his voice dropping. Actually, going to college was a big burden for my family. My parents sold part of their land to pay for my education. That's why I can't afford to waste this opportunity. Elon listened attentively, his eyes showing deep respect. You've overcome a lot of hardships to be here today. I just tried my best, Uncle, Alan replied, his voice firm. I know I can't let my parents down and their sacrifices. I want to study well and find a good job so I can support my family and support my 2 younger siblings to finish their studies. Elon smiled slightly. You seem like a person who lives for family and responsibility, but I want to know, apart from that, if you have any bigger dreams. What would you most want to achieve if you weren't bound by any circumstances? The question took Alan by surprise. He had never thought that far ahead. After a moment of thought, he looked up at Elon, his eyes lighting up. If there were no barriers, I want to create cars that can change the world, just like Tesla is doing. I want to make clean technology accessible to everyone, even in the most remote places. I want to bring what I learned back to my home country, where most people still use outdated, polluting vehicles. Elon leaned forward, looking interested. How do you want to do that? I don't have a specific answer, Alan confessed, his voice full of sincerity. But I think every big change starts with small steps. First, I need to learn more and gain experience. Then, I want to go back and collaborate with like-minded young people and develop technology for my community. Elon nodded, a proud smile on his face. You have a very practical but ambitious way of thinking. That's something I appreciate. Elon Musk stood up, but didn't rush to leave, looking at Alan with gratitude. You did a really good job, he said, his voice deep. Thank you for not judging me by my appearance. Alan smiled shyly. I just think that everyone who walks into this showroom deserves to be treated equally, no matter who they are. Elon nodded, a thoughtful look on his face. He looked around the showroom one more time before pulling out an old handkerchief and wiping his face. Then he took off his sunglasses and baseball cap. Now I think it's time for everyone to know who I really am. The people standing nearby immediately widened their eyes and gasped when they recognized the face of the visitor before them, Elon Musk, the founder of Tesla, SpaceX, and a host of other high-profile companies, was standing right in their showroom. There was a moment of silence, so quiet that the faint hum of an electric motor could be heard from a display car. Then the whole room suddenly filled with whispers. That's Elon Musk? I can't believe it. I stood there all day and didn't recognize him. Several employees tried to regain their professional demeanor and hurried over to Elon. One of them, the showroom manager, emerged from his office, his face pale with tension. Mr. Musk. Hello, he said hurriedly, his voice trembling slightly. We didn't know you were coming by today. If we had known, we would have prepared better. Elon looked at him with a calm but sharp gaze. There's no need to prepare. I just wanted to come in as a regular customer. He paused, letting his words sink in. Then he turned to Alan. This young man is the only one here who actually paid attention to me. He treated me like any other customer, not paying any attention to my appearance. Elon walked to the center of the showroom, looking straight at the employees gathered around. I didn't come here to buy a car, he said, his voice clear and strong. I came here to see how you guys work, how you treat your customers. He paused, his eyes scanning each of them, and I have to say, I'm disappointed. The whole place fell silent. The staff bowed their heads. No one dared to look directly at him. Elon Musk or anyone else deserves to be treated with respect, no matter what they look like. I don't need people who only serve customers who look rich. I need people like Alan, who are willing to work with enthusiasm and without prejudice. Elon turned to look at Alan, who was standing awkwardly in a corner. He smiled, the warmth in his eyes making Alan feel less nervous. "Alan, you did a great job today. I want to thank you for your professionalism and sincerity." Elon pulled out a check from his jacket pocket, filling in a large number to everyone's surprise. He handed it to Alan. "Here's $50,000, a small reward for your efforts." But that's not all. Alan stared at the check in disbelief, unable to believe his eyes. But what surprised him even more was Elon's next words. "I'd like to offer you an internship at Tesla after you graduate. You deserve it." The news spread throughout the showroom. Employees who had once laughed at Alan now looked at him with a mixture of amazement and envy. They had no idea that the quiet, unnoticed intern would receive such recognition from one of the most powerful men in the world. The showroom manager couldn't hide his embarrassment either. He tried to maintain a professional demeanor, but he couldn't hide his regret. "Alan, I'm so proud of you," he said, trying to sound sincere. "You're a role model for all of us." Elon chuckled at this. He turned to the manager. "Yes, Alan is a role model, but instead of saying how proud I am, I think everyone here should take a look at how they do their jobs." The showroom event didn't end there. The next day, news of Elon Musk's visit was published in the media. A detailed article was written about how he tested the staff's service attitude and the big lesson he wanted to convey. Never judge a book by its cover, and Elon was quoted as saying, the story quickly became a hot topic of discussion on social media. Many people sympathized with Alan, who did not let prejudice influence his actions. Alan became a symbol of hard work and fairness. With the award and the opportunity to intern at Tesla, Alan had a completely new start. After graduating, he moved to Tesla's headquarters to start his dream job. Thanks to his hard work and eagerness to learn, Alan quickly proved his worth in the company's research and development team. Years later, Alan became a key engineer at Tesla, contributing to the development of groundbreaking technologies that changed the world. However, what he is most proud of is not fame or success, but the lesson he learned from Elon Musk. Always treat everyone fairly and with respect, regardless of what they look like.